Liam Walker was only 13 years old when his life as he knew it crumbled to ashes. The fire had started late in the night. A faulty electrical wire igniting a blaze in the tiny two-bedroom apartment where he lived with his parents. Liam had been at school, staying late for a tutoring session to help him prepare for an upcoming math test. It was supposed to be a normal day, nothing out of the ordinary. But when he arrived home, smoke and flames consumed his building, the orange glow lighting up the night sky like a cruel beacon. Neighbors stood clustered on the street, their faces pale and distraught as firefighters battled the inferno. Liam dropped his school bag and bolted toward the building, shouting for his parents. Strong arms pulled him back, a firefighter's voice breaking through his panic. "It's not safe. Kid, stay back." The blaze took everything: his mother, his father, the few belongings they had, all gone. Over the following weeks, Liam bounced between emergency shelters and offices filled with social workers who tried and failed to find him a home. He had no relatives to take him in, his parents had been only children, and his grandparents had passed away years earlier. After months of being shuffled between crowded shelters, Liam slipped through the cracks of the system and onto the streets. For 2 years, Liam roamed the alleys and corners of the city, surviving however he could. At first, he told himself it was temporary, that someone would come looking for him, that he'd find a way back to a normal life. But the days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. He learned quickly how to blend into the background, avoiding the eyes of strangers who might mean trouble or pity. Both were equally unwelcome. His days began early, waking on hard patches of concrete or cold park benches. Hunger was a constant companion, gnawing at him like a persistent shadow. Some days, he managed to scavenge half-eaten sandwiches or day-old bread from the trash bins behind bakeries. On rare occasions, a kind shopkeeper would hand him a warm meal, but those moments were few and far between. Despite everything, Liam held on to one thing: the memory of his parents' words. His mother had always told him, "No matter how tough things get, don't let the world harden your heart." And his father had added, "Kindness is what makes us human." Liam, never forget that. Those words became his anchor. Even when he had nothing, Liam found ways to help others. He shared scraps of food with stray animals, gave directions to lost tourists, and offered a smile to anyone who acknowledged his presence. It was his way of clinging to the humanity his parents had instilled in him. One crisp autumn morning, Liam woke up behind a grocery store, his body stiff from the cold. He stretched, rubbing the sleep from his eyes and ignoring the ache in his empty stomach. As he stepped out into the bustling street, his attention was drawn to a small dog limping along the sidewalk. The dog was a sorry sight. Its ribs jutted out sharply beneath its patchy fur, and it moved with a pronounced limp. Its head hung low, as if carrying the weight of the world. Liam stopped in his tracks, watching the animal with a mixture of concern and sadness. "Poor guy," he muttered. "You look like you've had it rough, too." The dog glanced up at him briefly, its dark eyes filled with a wary kind of exhaustion. Liam thought about approaching, but he hesitated. Stray dogs could be unpredictable, and the last thing he needed was to get bitten. Still, something about the dog's pitiful state tugged at him. He decided to follow it from a distance, hoping to find a way to help. The dog crossed the street slowly, its trembling legs barely supporting its weight. Just as it reached the middle of the road, a black sedan sped around the corner. Liam's heart leapt into his throat as the car swerved to avoid a pothole, clipping the dog in the process. The animal let out a sharp yelp and crumpled to the ground. "Hey!" Liam shouted, waving his arms, but the car didn't stop. It sped away, leaving the injured dog lying in the street. Without hesitation, Liam ran to the dog's side. He knelt down, carefully examining its injuries. Blood seeped from a deep gash on its hind leg, and its breathing was shallow. The dog's eyes fluttered weakly, and its body quivered with pain. "It's okay, buddy," Liam said softly, his voice trembling. "I've got you." He gently stroked the dog's head, trying to calm it. The animal didn't resist, too weak to move or protest. Liam looked around, hoping someone would stop to help, but the street was eerily quiet. A few pedestrians glanced at the scene but quickly turned away, unwilling to get involved. Liam gritted his teeth in frustration. "Cowards," he muttered under his breath. If no one else would help, he would. He slid his arms carefully under the dog's body, wincing as it whimpered in pain. "I'm gonna get you some help," he promised. Liam's thin frame wasn't built for heavy lifting, and the dog was heavier than he'd anticipated. Sweat dripped down his forehead as he carried the injured animal down the street, his arms burning with effort. He remembered seeing a hospital sign a few blocks away. Surely someone there would know what to do. "Hang in there, buddy," he murmured. "We're almost there." By the time he reached the hospital, Liam was completely out of breath. He pushed through the glass doors and called out, "Help! Someone help me!" The receptionist, a woman named Clara Harris, looked up in surprise. She was about to tell Liam that this was a hospital for people, not animals. When her eyes landed on the dog in his arms, her expression shifted from confusion to recognition. "Buddy," she exclaimed, rushing toward them. Liam blinked, confused. "Buddy? That's Buddy," Clara said, her voice tight with concern. "The mayor's dog." Clara didn't waste a second. She gestured for Liam to follow her down a hallway that branched off from the hospital's main lobby. "This way," she said urgently, her steps quick but steady. Liam trailed behind, struggling to keep his grip on Buddy. His arms felt like jelly from the weight, but he held on, his determination stronger than his fatigue. Clara led him into a small clinic attached to the hospital, one he hadn't noticed before. Inside, a man in his 60s with salt and pepper hair and a white coat was preparing supplies. Clara quickly explained the situation. "This is Buddy, Mayor Carter's dog. He's been hit by a car," Clara said, her voice tight with urgency. The veterinarian nodded, his expression serious but calm. "Set him on the table," he instructed Liam. Liam gently laid Buddy on the examination table, careful not to jostle the dog's injured leg. The vet immediately began his work, examining the gash on Buddy's leg and checking for other injuries. Liam stood to the side, his hands trembling as he watched. He didn't realize he'd been holding his breath until the vet finally looked up. "He's going to be okay," the vet said, his voice reassuring. A wave of relief washed over Liam, and he sagged against the wall. "Thank you," he murmured, his voice barely audible. Clara turned to Liam, her eyes soft with gratitude. "No, thank you," she said. "If you hadn't brought him here, he might not have made it." Liam shrugged awkwardly, stuffing his hands into his pockets. I couldn't leave him there. It didn't feel right." Clara smiled, touched by his sincerity. "You did a good thing today, Liam," as Clara stepped out of the room to make a phone call. Liam began to feel restless. The sun was starting to set, and he knew he needed to start looking for food. He didn't expect anything in return for what he'd done. It wasn't why he'd helped Buddy. All he wanted was to make sure the dog was safe. Before Clara returned, Liam quietly slipped out of the clinic. He moved quickly through the hospital's hallways, keeping his head down to avoid drawing attention. By the time Clara came back with the mayor's assistant on the phone, the room was empty. "He's gone?" Clara muttered, glancing around, her brow furrowed in confusion. But she quickly turned her focus back to the call. Meanwhile, Liam disappeared into the evening, his stomach growling as he wandered the city streets. For him, it was just another day of survival. The next morning, Liam woke up beneath the shade of an old oak tree in the park. His muscles ached from carrying Buddy the night before, and the soreness reminded him of the dog's injuries. He hoped the little guy was okay. Hunger gnawed at his stomach, and he scavenged for anything edible. He managed to find half a sandwich left on a bench, and though it was stale, he ate it gratefully. As he chewed, he watched the city come to life. People hurried along the sidewalks. Cars honked in the distance, and the scent of fresh coffee from a nearby cafe teased his senses. Liam often wondered about the people who lived in the shiny buildings downtown, their lives so different from his own. He imagined them sitting in their fancy apartments, eating warm breakfasts without a care in the world. He didn't resent them, he just couldn't imagine what that kind of life felt like. After finishing the sandwich, Liam decided to wander through the city, hoping to find work or small tasks to earn a few coins. But as the day wore on, his usual spots yielded nothing. Most shopkeepers waved him away, uninterested or wary of a homeless boy asking for work. By the afternoon, Liam found himself standing on the corner of a busy street, watching the endless stream of cars and people. Suddenly, a sleek black sedan with tinted windows pulled up to the curb in front of him. Startled, Liam took a step back, his mind racing. Was he in trouble? Had someone reported him? The driver's window rolled down slowly, revealing a man in a sharp suit. His expression was calm but serious. Are you Liam Walker? The man asked. Liam blinked, his heart pounding. Yeah, who's asking? The man's lips curved into a slight smile. My name is Jack Reynolds. I work for Mayor Evelyn Carter. She's asked to see you. Please, get in. Liam froze, confusion swirling in his mind. The mayor? Why would the mayor want to see me? His first instinct was to run. The streets had taught him to be wary of strangers, especially ones in suits driving expensive cars. But something about Jack's demeanor, patient and non-threatening, made Liam pause. What does the mayor want with me? Liam asked cautiously. You'll find out soon enough, Jack said. But don't worry, you're not in any trouble. Still unsure, Liam hesitated, his gaze darted to the street, considering his options. Finally, with a deep breath, he opened the car door and slid into the backseat. The interior was pristine, the leather seats soft beneath him. It was the most comfortable thing he'd sat on in years. The car pulled away smoothly, leaving the familiar streets of Liam's neighborhood behind. As the buildings grew taller and the sidewalks cleaner, Liam couldn't help but feel out of place. His tattered clothes and worn sneakers stood in stark contrast to the polished surroundings. After what felt like an eternity, the car stopped in front of an elegant stone building with tall columns and a grand entrance. A plaque near the door read City Hall. Liam's heart raced as he stepped out of the car, following Jack inside. The interior of City Hall was immaculate. Marble floors gleamed under bright lights, and the walls were lined with framed photographs and awards. Liam kept his head down, trying to make himself as small as possible. He felt the weight of curious eyes on him as he followed Jack through the grand halls. They stopped in front of a large wooden door. Jack knocked once, then opened it, gesturing for Liam to enter. The room was spacious, with a massive oak desk at the far end and large windows that offered a stunning view of the city. Behind the desk stood a woman in her early 40s, dressed in a tailored navy blue suit. Her presence was commanding yet warm, her confident smile immediately putting Liam slightly at ease. Liam, she said, stepping around the desk to greet him. Welcome, my name is Evelyn Carter, and I'm the mayor of this city. Please, have a seat. Liam sat down cautiously, his mind racing with questions. Why am I here? What does she want from me? Ma'am, he began hesitantly. Why did you ask to see me? Evelyn smiled, her eyes kind. Liam, yesterday you did something extraordinary. You saved a life. Liam shifted uncomfortably in his chair, unsure how to respond. I didn't really do anything special. Ma'am, he muttered, keeping his gaze on the floor. Evelyn's smile widened slightly as she leaned forward, resting her hands on the desk. You carried an injured dog for blocks, brought him to safety, and saved his life. That may not feel special to you, Liam, but to me, it means the world. The mention of the dog brought a flicker of relief to Liam's face. How is he? He asked quickly. Buddy's doing well, Evelyn said, thanks to you. He's on the road to recovery. He's still resting at the clinic, but the vet says he'll make a full recovery. Liam exhaled, a weight lifting from his chest. That's good, he murmured. Evelyn studied him for a moment, her expression softening. Buddy isn't just a dog to me, Liam. He belonged to my father, who passed away last year. He was my dad's last gift to me, and losing him would have been like losing another piece of my father. Liam glanced up at her, surprised. He hadn't known the dog was so important, but hearing it now made his decision to help feel even more meaningful. Thank you, Evelyn continued, her voice filled with genuine gratitude. What you did showed incredible kindness and courage. Not everyone would have done what you did. Liam shrugged, feeling a flush of embarrassment rise to his cheeks. I couldn't leave him there. It didn't feel right. And that, Evelyn said, her tone firm but warm, is exactly why I asked to meet you. Liam frowned slightly, confusion flickering across his face. You wanted to meet me, just because of that? Evelyn smiled again and stood, walking to a cabinet in the corner of the room. She pulled out a folder and returned to her desk, opening it as she spoke. Liam, I know about your situation. Clara told me you left the clinic before she could talk to you. But she and I wanted to make sure you were okay. She looked at him intently. You've been through more than most people can imagine. And yet you still found it in your heart to help someone, or in this case, an animal, in need. That speaks volumes about your character. Liam shifted in his chair, his defenses going up. I'm fine, he said quickly. You don't need to worry about me. Evelyn's expression softened further, and she leaned forward slightly. I'm not here to pity you, Liam. I'm here because I want to help. Liam blinked, stunned. Help me? Why? Because you deserve a chance at a better life. Evelyn said simply. You've been dealt a hard hand, but that doesn't mean it has to stay that way. Starting today, you don't have to sleep on the streets or wonder where your next meal will come from. I want to arrange a place for you to stay, help you get back into school, and make sure you have the support you need to build a future. Liam stared at her, his mind reeling. He had spent so long fending for himself, expecting nothing from anyone, that the idea of someone offering to help him felt almost too good to be true. Why would you do that for me? He asked, his voice quiet but tinged with suspicion. You don't even know me. Evelyn smiled again, this time with a mixture of warmth and conviction. Because kindness should always be met with kindness, Liam, and because I believe everyone deserves a chance. No matter how hard life has been. You saved Buddy's life, and now I want to help you save yours. Liam felt his throat tighten, and he quickly looked away, afraid she might see the tears welling up in his eyes. He didn't know what to say. Part of him wanted to accept her offer, to grab onto the lifeline she was throwing him. But another part of him was afraid that it wasn't real. That it would all fall apart like everything else in his life had. He began, but his voice faltered. Evelyn seemed to sense his hesitation. You don't have to decide right now, she said gently, but think about it, okay? This isn't charity, Liam, it's an opportunity, and you've earned it. After a long silence, Liam finally nodded. Okay, he said softly, I'll think about it. Evelyn smiled, clearly relieved. Good. In the meantime, my assistant, Jack, will take you to a place where you can rest. It's not much, but it's warm and safe. And there's food waiting for you. Liam's stomach growled at the mention of food, and despite his lingering doubts, he found himself agreeing. Jack reappeared a few moments later, and Evelyn gave Liam one last reassuring smile before they left the office. As they drove to the apartment, Liam stared out the window, his thoughts a whirlwind. The city looked different from this perspective, cleaner, brighter, almost hopeful. He wasn't sure if he could trust what was happening, but for the first time in years, he felt the faintest glimmer of something he thought he'd lost forever, hope. Liam wasn't sure what to expect as the car pulled into the small, modest apartment complex on the quieter side of town. The building wasn't fancy, but it was clean, with fresh paint on the walls and flower beds lining the walkway. To Liam, it might as well have been a palace. Jack led him to the second floor and stopped in front of a door. This is your place, he said with a small smile, handing Liam a key. Go ahead. Liam hesitated, staring at the key in his hand. The weight of it felt strange, unfamiliar. He hadn't held a key of his own in years. Slowly, he unlocked the door and stepped inside. The apartment was small but cozy. A single bed with crisp white sheets sat against one wall, and a small table with two chairs stood near a tiny kitchenette. On the counter, there was a basket filled with food, fresh fruit, a loaf of bread, and even a few cans of soup. This is, for me? Liam asked, his voice barely above a whisper. All yours, Jack replied. Mayor Carter wanted to make sure you had everything you need. Liam's throat tightened as he walked further into the room. He ran his hand over the edge of the bed, the soft fabric feeling foreign beneath his fingers. He wasn't used to this kind of comfort, and part of him was afraid it would all disappear the moment he let himself believe it was real. You're safe here, Jack said gently. Take your time to settle in. Tomorrow, someone from the mayor's office will come by to talk about the next steps. Liam nodded silently, unable to find the words to express the storm of emotions swirling inside him. The next morning, Liam was woken by a gentle knock on his door. When he opened it, he found a woman in her 30s standing there with a clipboard and a warm smile. Good morning, Liam, she said. I'm Lisa Monroe, a social worker assigned to help you transition into your new life. May I come in? Liam stepped aside, letting her enter. Lisa's presence was calm and reassuring, and her smile never wavered as she sat at the small table and began to explain her role. I'm here to help with whatever you need, housing, schooling, job training, you name it, Lisa said. But first, we need to get you enrolled in school. How does that sound? The word school hit Liam like a bolt of lightning. He hadn't set foot in a classroom since the fire that had taken his parents. The thought of going back, of sitting among kids his age who had never known hunger or homelessness, filled him with a mix of fear and doubt. Do I have to? He asked hesitantly. Lisa nodded gently. I know it's scary, but education is the key to building a future. And don't worry, you'll have support every step of the way. We'll start slow and make sure you're comfortable. Liam bit his lip, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. But deep down, he knew she was right. If he wanted a better life, he had to take the first step. Okay, he said softly, I'll try. Lisa took Liam shopping for clothes and school supplies that afternoon. For the first time in years, he had a backpack filled with fresh notebooks and pencils. The weight of it felt strange on his shoulders, but also exciting in a way he hadn't expected. The next morning, they walked together to the local high school. Liam's heart pounded as they entered the building, the sound of laughter and chatter echoing in the halls. He felt out of place, his worn sneakers and guarded demeanor standing out among the polished confidence of his peers. Lisa led him to the principal's office, where a kind woman named Mrs. Evans greeted them warmly. Welcome, Liam, she said with a smile. We're so glad to have you here. Don't worry about catching up. Our teachers will work with you to make sure you're comfortable. Despite her reassurances, Liam couldn't shake the nerves that gripped him as he walked into his first class. The other students glanced at him curiously, but no one said anything. He took a seat at the back of the room, hoping to blend into the background. The first few days were tough. Liam struggled to keep up with the lessons, and his self-doubt loomed large. But slowly, with the help of patient teachers and Lisa's constant encouragement, he began to find his footing. Meanwhile, Evelyn kept a close eye on Liam's progress. She invited him to lunch at City Hall once a week, where they would sit in her office and talk. How's school going? She asked during one of their meetings. Liam shrugged. It's hard, but I think I'm getting the hang of it. Evelyn smiled, her pride evident. You're doing great, Liam. I've spoken to your teachers, and they're all impressed by how hard you're working. Liam looked down at his plate, a faint blush creeping into his cheeks. He wasn't used to praise, and it felt strange but good. Over time, their conversations grew more personal. Evelyn shared stories about her father, and Liam opened up about his parents, the fire, and his years on the streets. The bond between them deepened, and Liam began to see Evelyn not just as a benefactor, but as a mentor and a maternal figure. As the weeks went on, Liam slowly adjusted to his new routine. School, while challenging, became a source of structure and purpose. Each day was a small victory, mastering a new math problem, earning a passing grade on a quiz, or simply making it through the day without feeling like he didn't belong. The school staff had been kind and patient, just as Mrs. Evans had promised. But it was the quiet acts of kindness from his classmates that surprised him most. A girl named Sophie, who sat in front of him in English class, started lending him notes when he struggled to keep up. A boy named Carlos, who shared his passion for drawing, invited Liam to sit with him at lunch. Slowly but surely, Liam began to feel like he wasn't just surviving, he was becoming part of something. One crisp Friday afternoon, Evelyn invited Liam to her home for dinner. The house was warm and inviting, filled with framed photos of her family and soft light from table lamps. Buddy, now fully recovered, bounded up to Liam the moment he stepped inside, wagging his tail and nudging Liam's leg with his nose. Hey, buddy, Liam said with a smile, crouching down to pet him. The dog licked his hand in return, as if to say, thank you. Evelyn watched the interaction from the doorway, her smile gentle. He hasn't forgotten you, you know, she said. You saved his life. Liam straightened, his gaze meeting hers. I think he saved mine too. Over dinner, Evelyn encouraged Liam to share his dreams. It was a question he hadn't allowed himself to think about for years. Dreams felt like a luxury for someone just trying to survive. But with Evelyn's steady encouragement, Liam began to open up. I like building things, he admitted, his voice hesitant. When I was little, my dad and I used to fix old radios and toys. He said I had a knack for it. Evelyn leaned forward, her eyes lighting up. That's wonderful. Liam, have you ever thought about becoming an engineer? Liam blinked, the idea catching him off guard. I guess I've never really thought that far ahead. Well, Now's the time to start. Evelyn said firmly. You've got so much potential, Liam, and I'll do everything I can to help you reach it. Despite the progress he was making, Liam still wrestled with moments of doubt. One evening, as he sat at his small apartment desk struggling with a geometry assignment, frustration bubbled to the surface. The equations seemed to blur together, mocking his attempts to understand them. I can't do this, he muttered, pushing the notebook away. I'm not smart enough. The knock on his door startled him. When he opened it, Lisa stood there with a kind smile and a folder in her hands. Bad day? She asked. Stepping inside, Liam sighed, running a hand through his hair. I just don't get it. I feel like I'll never catch up. Lisa set the folder down and sat across from him. You're allowed to struggle, Liam. It doesn't mean you're not capable. It means you're learning. Her words stayed with him long after she left. And though the doubt didn't disappear completely, it no longer felt insurmountable. Slowly but surely, Liam learned to trust himself, even when things felt hard. As Liam settled into his new life, he began to excel in his classes, particularly in math and science. His natural curiosity and problem-solving skills shone through, and his teachers encouraged him to explore his interests further. One day, his science teacher, Mr. Hartman, pulled him aside after class. Liam, have you thought about joining the robotics club? He asked. You'd be a great fit. Liam hesitated. Robotics? I don't know. I've never done anything like that before. Mr. Hartman smiled. That's the point. It's a chance to try something new. And I think you'd really enjoy it. With some encouragement from both Mr. Hartman and Evelyn, Liam decided to give it a try. The first meeting was nerve-wracking. But as he watched the older students program and assemble robots, something clicked. By the end of the session, he was hooked. Over the next few months, Liam threw himself into the club, spending hours after school learning how to code, build circuits, and troubleshoot mechanical issues. For the first time, he felt like he'd found something he was truly good at. On a chilly afternoon, Evelyn called Liam to her office at City Hall. When he arrived, she greeted him with an envelope in her hand and a knowing smile. I have something for you, she said, handing him the envelope. Liam opened it cautiously, his eyes widening as he read the letter inside. It was an invitation to a citywide science and engineering competition, with his name listed as one of the participants. I don't understand, he said, looking up at Evelyn. How did they? I submitted an application for you. Evelyn explained. I showed them some of your robotics work from school, and they were impressed. I hope that's okay. Liam stared at her, a mix of disbelief and gratitude flooding his chest. You really believe I can do this? Evelyn placed a hand on his shoulder, her expression unwavering. I know you can. The competition was held in a large convention center, buzzing with excitement and energy. Liam's project, a small, self-navigating robot designed to assist in disaster zones, stood proudly on display. He felt a nervous thrill as judges and spectators stopped by to ask questions. By the end of the day, when his name was called as the winner of his category, Liam was too stunned to speak. The applause was loud and overwhelming, but all he could think about was how far he had come. As he accepted his trophy, his eyes scanned the crowd until they landed on Evelyn, who was clapping with a proud smile on her face. For the first time in years, Liam felt something he thought he'd lost forever, a sense of belonging. Liam's life had transformed in ways he could hardly believe. The days of wandering the streets, sleeping under park benches, and scavenging for food felt like a distant memory. Now, his days were structured and purposeful, filled with school, robotics club, and visits to City Hall to meet with Evelyn. His apartment had become a sanctuary. Though modest, it felt like home, a place where he could relax, study, and dream. He kept Buddy's picture on the small table by his bed, a constant reminder of the moment that changed everything. But the transition wasn't without its challenges. Liam struggled to shake the habits and instincts he'd developed on the streets. He still flinched when someone approached him too quickly, and he often caught himself hiding food in his room, fearing it might disappear. These habits frustrated him, but Lisa reassured him that they were normal. You're still healing, Liam, she said during one of their meetings. It takes time to let go of survival mode. Her words comforted him, and slowly, he learned to trust the stability of his new life. Robotics became more than a club for Liam, it was his passion. He spent countless hours tinkering with circuits, programming code, and experimenting with designs. His room was soon filled with spare parts and half-finished projects, each one a step closer to mastering the craft he had come to love. His teachers noticed his dedication and began giving him extra opportunities to explore engineering. Mr. Hartman even introduced him to a local mentorship program that paired students with professionals in the field. Liam hesitated at first, unsure if he belonged among the other bright, confident kids in the program. But Evelyn encouraged him to apply. "You've proven you can handle challenges, Liam," she told him. "This is just another step forward." To his surprise, Liam was accepted into the program. He was paired with a mentor named Dr. Alan Brooks, a retired aerospace engineer who ran a small workshop downtown. Their sessions quickly became the highlight of Liam's week. Dr. Brooks was patient and enthusiastic, treating Liam as an equal and encouraging him to push his boundaries. "You've got a good head on your shoulders, kid," Dr. Brooks said one afternoon as Liam demonstrated a prototype for a solar-powered device. "You could do some amazing things if you stick with this." Liam's confidence grew with every success. And for the first time, he began to envision a future for himself. Despite his progress, Liam still faced obstacles. Balancing school, the mentorship program, and his part-time job at a local cafe was exhausting. There were nights when he stayed up late working on projects, only to feel the weight of exhaustion pulling him down the next day. One particularly tough week, Liam failed a math test. The red ink on his paper felt like a slap in the face, and self-doubt crept back in. "I'm not cut out for this," he told Lisa during one of their sessions. "Maybe I'm just fooling myself." Lisa frowned, leaning forward. "Liam, you've come so far. One setback doesn't erase all the progress you've made. What matters is how you handle it." Evelyn echoed her sentiment during one of their lunches. "Failure isn't the opposite of success, Liam," she said. "It's part of the process. Learn from it, and you'll come back stronger." Taking their advice to heart, Liam met with his teacher to review the test and worked tirelessly to improve. The next time, he passed with flying colors, proving to himself that he could overcome challenges. Evelyn's role in Liam's life deepened as the months went by. She became more than just the mayor who had helped him. She was a mentor, a friend, and a maternal figure he hadn't realized he needed. One evening, Evelyn invited Liam to join her and Buddy for a walk in the park. As they strolled under the golden light of the setting sun, she shared stories about her late father and the lessons he had taught her about leadership and compassion. "He always believed in paying it forward," Evelyn said, throwing a ball for Buddy to chase. "He told me that helping one person might not change the world, but it could change their world. That's what I want to do for you." Liam nodded, her words resonating deeply. "You've already done more for me than I could ever repay." Evelyn placed a hand on his shoulder, her gaze kind. "You don't have to repay me, Liam. Just promise me you'll do the same for someone else someday." Liam smiled, the weight of her trust filling him with purpose. "I will." As Liam approached his final year of high school, Evelyn surprised him with an opportunity that would change the trajectory of his life. She had arranged for him to apply for a full scholarship to a prestigious engineering program at the state's top technical college. "I think you're ready," she said, handing him the application forms. "And I know you can do this." Liam stared at the forms, a mix of excitement and fear bubbling inside him. "What if I don't get in?" "Then you'll try again," Evelyn said simply. "But something tells me you will." With Dr. Brooks and his teacher's help, Liam poured himself into the application process. He worked tirelessly on his personal statement, sharing his story of resilience and his dream of using engineering to create solutions for people in need. When the acceptance letter arrived weeks later, Liam could hardly believe it. The words "Congratulations, Liam Walker" felt surreal, and he read them over and over, as if they might disappear. Evelyn was the first person he called. Her voice was filled with pride as she said, "I knew you could do it." Liam stepped onto the sprawling campus of the state's top technical college with a mixture of awe and nervousness. The sleek buildings, buzzing with students from all walks of life, felt like an entirely different world from the streets he once called home. He clutched his backpack tightly, feeling like an imposter among the confident faces passing by. Despite his nerves, Liam was determined to make the most of this opportunity. His first semester was packed with rigorous coursework in mathematics, engineering principles, and computer science. Though the material was challenging, Liam found himself drawn to it, each problem and project fueling his curiosity and passion for creating. However, college wasn't without its hurdles. The academic workload was daunting, and Liam struggled to keep up at times. He often stayed up late in the library, surrounded by textbooks and empty coffee cups, fighting the voice in his head that whispered, "You're not good enough." One evening, after a particularly grueling day of classes, Liam found himself sitting alone in the campus cafeteria, staring at an unfinished assignment. A friendly voice interrupted his thoughts. "Mind if I sit here?" Liam looked up to see a girl with curly hair and bright eyes holding a tray of food. Her name was Rachel, and as they talked, Liam learned she was also in the engineering program. Their shared struggles with coursework quickly turned into a friendship. And soon, Rachel introduced Liam to a study group of like-minded students. The group became a lifeline for Liam. Together, they worked through complex equations, exchanged ideas for projects, and supported one another through the stress of exams. For the first time, Liam felt like he truly belonged, surrounded by peers who believed in him. During his second year, Liam's robotics professor announced a campus-wide competition to design a device that addressed a real-world problem. The challenge ignited Liam's creativity, and he threw himself into the project. Drawing on his own experiences for inspiration, he decided to design a low-cost, portable water purification system, inspired by the struggles he had witnessed during his years on the streets. His prototype used solar power and a simple filtration system to provide clean drinking water in areas lacking access. As the competition deadline approached, Liam worked tirelessly, often skipping meals and sleep to perfect his design. When the day of the competition arrived, he stood nervously by his display, watching judges and students gather around. When the winners were announced, Liam's name echoed through the hall. He had not only won his category but also secured funding to develop his project further. The applause felt surreal, and as Liam accepted the award, he couldn't help but think of Evelyn's words, "One act of kindness can change everything." The next time Liam visited Evelyn, he brought the prototype with him. Buddy wagged his tail enthusiastically as Liam set the device on the table and explained its purpose. Evelyn listened intently, her eyes filled with pride. "Liam, this is incredible. You're not just building a future for yourself, you're building a future for others." Liam smiled, a rare moment of confidence washing over him. "I couldn't have done it without you." Evelyn shook her head. "You've always had this potential, Liam. All I did was give you the chance to show it." As they talked, Evelyn encouraged Liam to think about the bigger picture. She connected him with local nonprofit organizations interested in using his water purifier to help underserved communities. The partnership marked the beginning of Liam's journey from student to innovator. Years passed, and Liam's hard work paid off. On the day of his graduation, he stood among his peers in his cap and gown, the weight of his achievements settling on his shoulders. As he walked across the stage to receive his degree in mechanical engineering, the applause felt like a testament to his resilience and determination. Evelyn was in the audience, tears glistening in her eyes. After the ceremony, she hugged him tightly. "I'm so proud of you, Liam," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You've come so far." Liam nodded, his own emotions threatening to overwhelm him. "Thank you for everything." With his degree in hand, Liam joined an engineering firm that specialized in sustainable technology. But he didn't stop there. Inspired by Evelyn's example, he started volunteering at local shelters, mentoring homeless youth and sharing his story. During one of his visits, he met a boy named Marcus, whose situation mirrored Liam's own. Marcus was hesitant to trust him at first, but over time, Liam's patience and understanding broke through the boy's defenses. Watching Marcus begin to believe in himself reminded Liam of his own journey and strengthened his resolve to continue helping others. Years later, Evelyn invited Liam to a celebration at City Hall in honor of her retirement. The room was filled with city leaders, friends, and supporters, but Liam only had eyes for Evelyn as she stood at the center of the gathering. Her smile radiant. When it was his turn to speak, Liam stepped forward, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "Mayor Carter changed my life in ways I can never repay," he said. "Her kindness gave me a chance when no one else would. And it's because of her that I'm here today." The crowd erupted in applause, but Evelyn's eyes glistened with tears. Afterward, she pulled him aside, her voice soft. You've become everything I hoped you would. Liam. And now, you're making the world better in your own way. Liam smiled, his gaze falling on Buddy, who was lounging contentedly by the fireplace. It all started with him, Liam said, scratching the dog's ears. One act of kindness. Evelyn nodded. That's all it takes sometimes. Liam's journey from a homeless boy to a successful engineer and mentor became a story of hope and resilience. Inspiring others to believe in the power of compassion, he continued to pay it forward, ensuring that the kindness Evelyn showed him would ripple through countless lives. In the end, Liam's story was a testament to the idea that small acts of kindness can spark incredible transformations, and that no matter how tough life gets, it's never too late to change your story.